I normally don't say this in my videos, but this is one of those videos that you really should watch. And it's because it's going to save you a ton of money and probably even save your shoot. Today we're talking about 5 essential things you absolutely must have on your video shoots. Please make sure to stick around to the very end because I promise you're not going to want to miss out on what I'm going to share with you in this video. This literally could save you thousands, if not millions of dollars. Number 1, you absolutely should get insurance. Insurance is not just something nice and technical that we often talk about, but it's often there for a reason. Insurance is there so that anytime there's an injury or if something gets broken, if your set gets damaged, if something gets stolen and you need to replace it, the insurance is there to cover it. At the very least, and this is going to very much depend on where you are and what the laws of your countries are, but at the very least, insurance can help pay for the repairs of a set because accidents happen. All it takes is for someone to accidentally smash a window. All it takes is someone to literally kick a wall and cause a hole. Someone's got to repair that and someone's got to pay for it. That's where insurance comes in. The insurance can also help you pay for injuries in case there's an injury on set. I recommend go and look up on the internet for any good companies near you. Look for an insurance company in your country that's going to cover your film shoot. You're going to want to look into what's called a general liability package. This usually covers most of the important stuff like injuries to an actor or a crew member if there's damages on set, and then you can get those replaced. There's also a bunch of add-ons. You're going to want to look into those very, very carefully. Like if you want to get coverage for certain props, like if you have a very expensive prop, then you can get that replaced or covered in case of damages. If you're using a vehicle, then you need to make sure that's covered as well in case there's damages to that as well. All kinds of things. So please look into it very carefully. But you absolutely should get insurance on your project. Not having it could cause some very serious risks. The number 2 most important thing that you should have, of course, is you need to plan out your food strategy. I think a lot of people sort of save this to the last minute in terms of planning, but it really is important and it can play a major difference on your set. So first off, you gotta calculate how much food you gotta supply. This is based on how many days you're shooting, how many meals you're supplying, and how many people overall you gotta feed. This adds up really, really quickly, and this is something you really can't go without. Whether or not you have people who are coming on who are paid or coming on for free and volunteering, they absolutely should get fed. Because if someone doesn't eat, well, you're not going to have the same energy, and you may not have the same attitude, and just life sucks in general. Or maybe it gets really, really hot and you're sweating a lot and you're thirsty. Where's the water coming from? If you're waking up really early in the morning, some people need their tea, some people need their coffee, and it's just nice just to have food right there. Now, there's usually 2 common mistakes I often see. Number 1 is most of the time, someone will go and just order pizza. Pizza is fine, but you can also lose energy after eating pizza. It's not good for eating and then regaining energy. What you could do, though, is eat pizza at the end of the day. So maybe you're just wrapping up, maybe there's a couple hours left and you just need a break for dinner. Having pizza is not a bad thing, but just don't do it too often, because you know what? If you're eating pizza nonstop every single day for however many days you're shooting, that becomes very unhealthy really, really quickly for everyone's sakes. What I recommend that you do is think of a meal plan and try, if you can, make as much stuff from home as possible. You'd be very, very surprised how easy it is to make a lot of food from home. Make those sandwiches, make some wraps, make some soups. These are very easy things that you can make from home. Be very careful about what you combine together. Make sure you're very diligent in checking with your actors and your crew to see if there's any allergies. But you know what? It's very cheap to make stuff at home, and then it's already done and you bring it to set. You could do that. That's the cheaper option. Or you could go to a professional caterer and have them make stuff for you. But this gets really, really pricey. But don't underestimate food. It can really be a make or break in terms of your shoots. And when planning out your meals, the rule of thumb is you want to provide a breakfast if you're waking up early. Like if people need to show up before, I'd say 9 a.m., then really you should probably provide a breakfast. There should also be a lunch. There should also be a dinner if people are planning on staying late. This very much depends. My rule of thumb is if you're going to be staying long past, say, 5 p.m., you should supply a dinner. I had one day of shooting. We were doing the final light of Natha. We just finished wrapping. It was about 6 p.m., I believe. And we were just wrapping up and getting out of there. And at this point, I was going to order pizza so that we could all eat and then everyone go home. And I basically asked around with everyone and I said, okay, so we're just wrapping up now. We should be here for another hour or so. Would anyone like me to order pizza? And pretty much everyone just said, nah, don't worry about it. We'll just grab something on the way home. Okay, awesome. So check with your actors, check with your team, and make sure that they have expectations in terms of what food is going to be supplied and what that really should be. It's not unreasonable where if you're going to start late, they can supply their own breakfast. If you're going to be finishing up early, they can get their own lunch or they can get their own dinner. Number 3, you need to have a transportation budget. People are going to be moving around. You're going to be moving around. Unless you're at one solid location and everyone happens to be relatively close by, then you got to get everyone to that location somehow. So what I suggest you do is start planning out how you're going to deal with the traveling. Sometimes you might be at a place where everyone can access it by bus or by train or something like that. And so in that case, what you really should do is set aside budget to pay for everyone's fee to get everyone to and from that location via the bus or train, etc., as well as figure out the directions for that. Again, the more you plan out, the better things become. What if it's someplace you have to go by car? Well, you have a few options. The cheapest option is see if someone can do the driving, whether it's you, whether it's a crew member, even an actor, or even a PA. If any of those guys can help with the driving, that's a big help. Now, if someone is doing the driving, then you absolutely should expect to put in some form of compensation for the travel. This is something where you might want to have a bit of a talk between you and the drivers and just figure out something reasonable. You know what? I usually just say, hey, is it okay if I just cover your gas? And then maybe we'll work out how much gas is, and then like, okay, here's how much I'll compensate you per kilometer, per mile. If it's with a taxi, you're going to want to figure out what that fee is. If it's something like an Uber or something else where you're planning and scheduling someone else to drive you, then you got to figure out what that fee is. But don't underestimate the importance of finding a driver. And especially do not underestimate the importance of planning that out and making sure that every single person on set, actors, crew, all the way down to the PAs, everyone has a way to get to the set and everyone has a way to go home. Fourth thing that's extremely important, and a lot of people don't really touch on these, I know it can be a bit of an icky subject, contracts. Let me tell you why contracts are important. You ever been in an argument with someone and there's absolutely no proof whatsoever of something occurring, and it basically comes down to he said, she said, and then there's the truth? You ever had an argument with a member of your team, crew, or cast? They were supposed to do something at this time, at this place, and they didn't do it, so whose fault is it? And they said, well, you said this, and then you say, no, I said this, and then there's a misunderstanding. Contracts are essentially a piece of paper with all the information you could possibly ever need that you and someone else, usually referred to as another party, read this document, understand everything that's on this document, and sign off. Meaning that both of you fully understand what's in that piece of paper and you're willing to commit fully to whatever that contract says. This is important. A lot of people think that it's this legal document and there's lawsuits involved. You know what? Contracts are very rarely ever involving legalities or lawsuits. I've actually dealt with contracts where it even says as like a clause that unless both parties can come to a mutual understanding and can sort this out on their own, then as a last resort, we'll take this to court. So what is it that you want to write in this? Well, ideally you want to establish like who everyone is. So there's you, the producer or director, however you want to name yourself. And then there's that individual crew member or that actor. They need to understand what is their task, what is their role. If they're an actor and they're playing this character. If they're a crew member, they're this person and they're filling in this role. Cinematographer, sound engineer, grip, gaffer, PA, doesn't matter. Then you want to establish the dates that they're going to be working and the expectations around that. So what are the dates of the shoot? Because they definitely should be showing up for the shoot. If there's rehearsals and all that and meetings involved, guesstimate how many rehearsals you're going to need. Guesstimate how many meetings they really should be attending. Guesstimate how many months they're going to be attached to this project. If there's certain tasks, like if it's a production designer, make sure that you're very clear with them what their actual job is going to be. Are they responsible for the wardrobe? If not, you got to get someone else. Are they going to be responsible for supplying the props? If not, you got to get someone else for that too. And just make sure that whoever it is that you're signing this contract with fully understands what is entailed, so that basically you want to set up all the expectations. And that way there's no surprises later on. And you know what? If someone does question it and they're like, oh, you said this, or you didn't say this. Well, no, it's in the piece of paper. You signed on it. There's nothing else for you to say. I also want to be very clear that just because someone signs something in a contract, it does not mean that they are 100% going to fully commit to it. I've had actors sign on by a contract and then walk away. It happens, unfortunately. All you can do is just hope for the best and hope that whoever you're speaking with is just going to commit and do what they're asked to do. And make sure you're very, very clear. Like, if you set up a contract, make sure you ask them, okay, are you good with the contract? Do you understand what is being asked? Is there anything you need to add to it, etc., etc., etc.? Something else I also suggest that you do is, if you want, go on the internet and you'll find tons of templates for contracts, crew contracts, actor contracts, music licensing, all kinds of stuff. Make sure you read through it though, and make sure that you understand what it's saying, and make sure that the person you're doing contract with, they understand what it is saying as well. What you don't want is for there to be any form of confusion, because that will seriously bite you in the rear end. So go through it, and you know what? If you want to even create your own simple contract, that works too. Don't worry about legal words. Don't worry about the fancy terminology. Just write something simple. So contracts are important. And you can either do them yourself for free, but you have to understand how to do contracts, or you're going to have to hire a lawyer. And unfortunately, this costs money. But maybe you can find a good lawyer, and maybe you can find someone who's willing to sort of cut you a deal. I'm not saying that they're going to give you a massive discount, but maybe they might say, hey, I'm going to write everything I can within, let's say, this time period, and I'll only charge you for that time period. Finally, the fifth and final thing you absolutely should have set aside before you even begin shooting is an emergency budget. As I said, accidents happen. There's a Murphy's Law. Anything that could go wrong will go wrong. Someone might show up late. Someone may not show up at all. Maybe there's not enough food. Maybe the food that you did get end up getting spoiled. What if you ran out of tape and you desperately need tape? What if someone needs batteries and you run out of batteries? There's all sorts of reasons why you absolutely should have an emergency budget. And basically what you're doing is you're setting aside at the very least a few $100s just in case something happens. I could tell you a number of times when obviously something happens when it's not supposed to. This is not necessarily a reflection in terms of you did poor planning or you didn't do a good job as producer or AD or anything. It's not meant to blame anyone in particular. Stuff happens. Simple as that. So the more that you can cover yourself, and even if you're just improvising in the moment, and again, there's a reason why it's called emergency budget, because you're going to be fixing problems on the spot. Having a little bit of money set aside to help you to ease that problem is a massive, massive help. So whatever it is that you're budgeting, try your very best to make sure at the very least setting aside a few $100s just in case. So friends, these are 5 things that you absolutely need to have before you start shooting, and it's really going to help you and really save you. And I know that unfortunately some of the things I just mentioned are going to cost you quite a lot of money. I want you to really think about the pros and cons, especially if you don't have them. I know that there's a lot of filmmaking tips out there about, oh, you can do it for free and it's simple. You can just do it with no budget. I'd kind of argue against that. These 5 things you absolutely need to have. And if you have to pay for them, you have to pay for them. But these are very, very critical. I can't imagine not making a film shoot without any of the stuff I just mentioned. So at the very least, I really hope this video can help you so that if you were to run into any of these problems at a later point, because inevitably something's going to happen. It just will. I hope it doesn't. Something most likely will happen. So at the very least, I hope that this can help you. It can either prevent the problems or at least help you in dealing with the problems at the time. If you got any value out of this, please make sure to like that button, because hey, it's not going to happen on its own, and we want to push this out to help other filmmakers so that they don't get caught in the same trap that I've been in many times, and the reason I make this video. Please make sure to subscribe too if you really enjoy the content and you want to see more of this in the future. Lots of great stuff coming down the pipeline. So good luck on your projects. I genuinely mean that. Hopefully nothing goes wrong, and I will see you next time.